Hello, everyone. So, this is my May reading wrap up. I'm going to talk about the books that I finished, the books I didn't finish, the books that I added, and the books I'm going to subtract at the end of May. So, first off, the books I finished this month. I finally finished The Three Body Problem. I did not love this book. I did not think this was a good science fiction story. I really liked the science. I liked aspects of this book. I thought they were very creative, but as a whole, I really struggled with this book. I'm going to put this right back on my reread shelf, on my TBR shelf, because I'm going to give this book another shot. It is a very popular, well-rated book, so I'm sure that my dislike of it has to do more with me than with the quality of the book. And it did win the Hugo Award, so I'm going to just put this right back on my reread shelf. I finished Samantha Powers' biography, The Education of an Idealist, memoir. And Samantha Powers was in charge of the human rights foreign policy during the Obama administration, and then she was appointed to UN ambassador under Obama. And this book was amazing. It was heartbreaking, very difficult to read, but also perfectly written and beautifully executed. So I love this memoir so much. This was an amazing read. Another book I finished was The Eye of the Heron by Ursula Le Guin. And I did not like this book. I felt that it was very bland. And the sci-fi was it just felt outdated to me. Like there was nothing amazing about it. So I'm going to put this in the get rid of pile. I don't need to read that again. The next book I reread was Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I read this book back in 2020 and I really enjoyed it then. And I loved it even more this time. I really connected to this very odd character that the author created. I've tried reading her other books, or just her other book, and I don't remember the name of it at the time. I don't think she mentions it on the cover, but I did not like that book, and I DNFed it. I think it was called Today Will Be Different. I'm guessing. But this book was great. I really liked this one. I think her writing style really worked with this story. I just didn't feel like it worked with the other story. Another book I finished was Stanford Meisner on acting. Stanford Meisner is an actual acting technique, and I know there's a class taught on this technique near my house. Maybe not too close, but I know they teach classes based on this technique. So this book was a bit odd. It was like watching him teach classes. Every chapter was watching him teach acting classes and conversing with students and presenting the material through that process. But it was weird because I didn't like what he did in the class. I felt like he was very abusive to his students, and it kind of turned me off. But this book had so much valuable advice on acting. I just want to highlight it again. I did highlight a lot of it and tabbed it, but I want to go through it one more time, highlight all the valuable information, underline it, and then maybe get rid of the book. After, of course, I transcribe the notes. But very, very good information in a very oddly written book is my review of that one. I finished PU 239 and Other Russian Fantasies by Ken Kolfis. This book was absolutely incredible. This is definitely one of the best books I've ever read. I loved all the stories. Some stories I loved more than the others. They definitely were unbelievable. Because they're fantasies. But the stories were amazing. And I love this book so much. This is definitely one of my top favorite books. I finished Joan Didion's Let Me Tell You What I Mean. I did not connect to this book at all. I found it very bland, and I loved her Year of Magical Thinking. I couldn't put that one down. I was completely entranced by that book. And when I read this one, I just failed to connect to any of the stories, even the good ones. I know there's some stories were better than the others, but I could not. I don't want to ever read that book again. I finished Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. This is a graphic adaptation of his book, and this was an amazing graphic novel, absolutely beautiful. I loved it. I thought it was this is definitely one of the best graphic novels I ever read. I can't recommend this one enough. This is science fiction war, and it was just beautiful. Another graphic novel I finished was Amulet, and this was more of a middle school, maybe elementary school graphic novel, but it's really well done. I really enjoyed the story. I'm going to encourage my kids to read this one. I'm just going to put this right on their shelves now when I finish this video. But anyway, beautiful graphic novel. Can't recommend Amulet enough, and I cannot wait to find the second book in this graphic series. I finished Trick or Treatment. This was a difficult book for me to get through. I've been reading this one for almost a year, and I don't even remember the first couple sections of this book. But I had a really hard time getting through the homeopathy chapter. He kind of goes through the different alternative medicine treatments, such as acupuncture, homeopathy, chiropractic therapy, and herbal medicine, and goes through the science and the testing that these therapies have had, and kind of goes through, like, are they really effective, or is it more the placebo effect, and what are the harms from the different therapies? And I grew up in a household where homeopathy was practiced instead of regular medicine, and that was a bit traumatic for me to get through this chapter, which was a very long chapter. So this is my husband's book. I don't know if I'm going to read it again. Maybe I'll read parts of it, but I'm going to put this on his shelf because I can't put this on my favorite shelf. Okay, the next book I read was Patrimony by Philip Roth. I loved his writing style. This book was about, this was a memoir, not a fiction book. I thought it was fiction. I had this on my fiction shelf for a long time. And reading this makes me really excited to read his other books. This book was about him dealing with the, I guess, decline and death of his father. And it was a very beautiful, honest book, and I really enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to keep it just because I love his writing, and I'm going to read his other books as well. The next book was a reread from me. This one I grabbed while decluttering my nonfiction shelf just because I was so excited to read this one again. I love this book. This book, the author takes, I forget how many kids. I want to say, let's say 10 kids, or just some number of kids, and she just goes through 1 year of college with them, where she just documents, or not college, high school or college, and she documents how they're doing, their family life, the pressures they're feeling, their hopes and dreams. And this book was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed all the kids and the differences between them. There are a large variety of different types of personalities and academic abilities and parental situations. And this book is just a really good read. I really enjoyed this. This was a big inspiration for me to try to get more involved in my kids' academics, but not too involved and traumatize them. But anyway, I really enjoyed rereading this book. That was a fun experience for me. Another book I finished was So Many Books, So Little Time. This was a memoir of a writer, and I really connected to this book. She's not a writer. She's a writer because she wrote this book, but she's a reviewer. She's a book reviewer. And she documents her reading experience during 1 year. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was great. I really connected to her, and I connected to the books that she read. And I've actually had a hard time with these types of books in the past. I always get rid of them. I never enjoyed them. But this one I really liked. So I think this is going into my favorite shelf. And then finally, the last book I finished was Ready Player One. I read this book in 2019. I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars out of 5. On reread, to me, all the glaring discrepancies and problems with this book really stuck out. And I'm not going to read this one. I ended up giving this a 2 this time just because of how it was not good this time for me. It's a fun story, but it's not well done. Ended up being really boring, and it kind of ruined the whole geek culture vibe for me. Because we're a family of geeks in my house, and I feel like this just makes us look like losers. So I was going to get rid of this book, but my son intervened and said he wants to read it, so I'm going to give this to him, and I'm also going to give him Ready Player 2. Sorry about that noise. That's my vacuum cleaner cleaning out. That's very loud. So I'm going to give this book and Ready Player 2 to my son. He can read it if he wants, but I don't want to read this book again. And then let me tell you my DNFs. I tried reading Zorba the Greek, but I did not get far. I just couldn't. I didn't like it. The Hate You Give, I got a couple chapters in. I also could not. This book is not for me. I didn't want to read it. And I think Another book that I read last or earlier this year, Erasure, ruined this book for me. So, yeah, I just, it's not, I don't think I'm the target audience for that one. I got through maybe a quarter of The Echoes Beneath. And then I decided I wasn't going to finish it. It's a very dark book. And with the characters, I'm not really sure what the characters are doing or when they're going to start doing what they need to do. But it wasn't well written enough for me to keep pushing through this storyline. So I had a hard time. So I'm not going to be able to finish this book. I also could not finish John Bainesville's The Sea, even though it won the Man Booker Prize. This story was a bit cringy. I did not connect to him, the author or the storyteller, and I just couldn't keep going. It's a very short book, which is a shame that I couldn't even finish it. But I tried. I really tried hard to read this book, and I never enjoyed picking it up. And I think I got through a good amount, at least over half. And then finally, I tried Mariner's Wake, but I just had such a hard time with all the boat. What do you call it? The marine terminology. And I just couldn't really connect to the story. It was a bit violent. I just don't think this is the type of book for me. So that's a shame. I really was looking forward to reading it. So those are my DNFs that I'm just going to pass along to libraries. And then I'm going to, of course, get rid of Joan Didion's Let Me Tell You What I Mean. I have the Heron. I also decided to get rid of the Stepford's Wives from my fiction shelf because it just wasn't that great. It was not well written enough to keep. I did not enjoy the authorized adaptation of Fahrenheit 451. This is a graphic novel of Ray Bradbury's famous work. I just didn't enjoy this graphic novel. I just felt it was a bit awkward. I also decided to get rid of Carry On. I had a hard time reading this book the first time I read it, and then I was daring myself all month to pick this up and read it again, and I just didn't want to. So that just answers that. Same thing with The Sun Is Also a Star. When it came down to it, did I want to reread this book? No, not really. Not really. This is another book that I don't need. It was good when I read it, but I don't think I need to read it again. I think I got the gist. Courage to Grow. I like this book a lot when I read it, but I think it's been updated. There's a new edition of it. And if I'm going to reread the book, I'm going to reread that new edition. This is about an academy started by a group of parents to kind of change the way kids are taught, and it was a really good book. But I don't think I need to read it again. I'm going to get rid of Better Than Before: Mastering the Habits of Our Everyday Lives by Gretchen Rubin. This is a book on habit formation. I did a deep dive into this the first time I read it, and I think I got a lot out of it. But I'm a different person now, and I think I've definitely used a lot of the information she provides in this book. And I don't think I need to read it again. I think I understand how habits work now and how to get good at them. Another book I don't think I need to reread is Why We Get Fat. I really liked this book when I first read it, but that was a while ago, and I was on the keto mindset at the time. This book is mainly pushing keto. And I think I've benefited from this book. I don't need to read it again. I got everything out of it. The Leader's Brain. I don't think I'm going to read this one again. So it was good. This was sent to me by the publisher, and I really liked it. And I really enjoyed a lot of it. But I don't think this is a reread for me. Same thing with Made to Stick. I definitely remember this book very well, and I don't need to read it again. I got a lot of information out of it. Mozart in the Jungle. I read this book at the beginning of the year, and now that I think about it, I don't think I really liked it that much. It was very dirty. It's a very dirty book, and I don't think I need to read that again. I didn't love it. I'm going to get rid of this graphic novel on women with autism just because it's so short, and I feel like there's just not enough information in it. It's helpful, but I think I'm going to pass it on. Other people may be able to benefit from it and seek out a diagnosis if they need it. Another book I don't see myself rereading is Invisible Storm, A Soldier's Memoir of Politics and PTSD. I really did enjoy this book when I read it, but I don't think I need to read it again. I think I got everything I needed out of it. And then finally, I'm going to get rid of In a Different Key, The Story of Autism, just because I don't need to do a deep dive into the history of autism again. I've read a lot of books on this subject, and I don't see myself picking this book up again. It's a massive book. and I can just part with it. And then finally, a few books that I've added back on my shelf, or I've not added back, but added to my shelf. I just bought The Second Mountain by David Brooks. This was recommended by Mark Manson, who's a writer that I follow. And my husband's currently reading this one. He found it extremely helpful, so I decided to get myself a copy as well. This is one of the last books that came in for my birthday. That was a gift. So this was, someone told me not me, but someone on YouTube mentioned this book is probably her best work. So I was really excited to request this one. I've decided to add Life of Pi back on my shelf. This was a declutter from last month, so I've added this back to read because it is a Booker Prize winner, so don't want to get rid of that. And then finally, I got the 100 Years War on Palestine just because I just don't know what's going on in politics right now, and I was hoping this book would shed some light on what's going on so I can be a little more informed about history and politics and current events. Okay, so that's it. That's my read, DNF, and declutter, or I guess unhaul. Big unhaul this month. Thank you for watching.